Hello everyone, this is Zflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Project 46's song Motionless featuring Seri. So if you guys haven't watched my videos in the past, I basically break down these videos into three separate sections. So I have an intro backstory section, then a breakdown analysis section, and lastly an outro section. So this is Project 46's song Motionless. And Project 46 is one of the OG artists on Monstercat. I think they started either on 002 or 003. I think their first song was Limitless, but I could be wrong. It could be a song even prior to that. Dreaming, maybe. Regardless, I've been a big fan of Project 46 since the beginning. They were the first house artists really on Monstercat, like progressive house wise. I think Hellberg was just appearing, or right around the time I started following Monstercat and listening to Monstercat, but Hellberg's style was way far from where he was for This Is Forever and The Girl. So he definitely was just starting off with more kind of big room house, I guess you'd almost want to say. Eminence wasn't bad, but they kind of had their own distinct kind of style. But Project 46, I don't know why exactly. Like, maybe because the name was so weird. I don't know. Project 46, like, what? Like, is this the 40? Were there 45 other projects before Project 46? I don't know. But I really got into their music at around this time when I started following Monstercat. And you know, some of the more notable songs from the early days, like Dreaming, Slide, Limitless, Moab, are songs I actually still listen to today. I really like Slide. It's really good. Dreaming, for as many people that don't like it because they think the vocals are kind of whiny and kind of annoying, I guess I've heard in the comment section. I really like that song. I really like the vocals on that song. But there's notable songs from them like Reasons, their really big song, which is Reasons, No One, and this is the song Motionless. To me, this is kind of like when their style kind of peaked really well, and like it combined all the aspects of their other older songs into like a really nice formulaic song, which brings out a lot of emotion, which I really like in a song. And I don't know, this song on 015 Outlook is like one of those really good albums, really solid. Honestly, if I didn't like 018 as one of my favorite albums, I'd say 015 was like right up there, right up against 018, because this album's really solid. There are a lot of songs on this album I'm actually going to do APA videos for, because there's just so many good songs on 015. But this is probably the best house song, I think, on the album. But I don't know, I think Air might also be on the same album, which is kind of a hard comparison between this and Air, because I think Air is a little more popular than Motionless. But regardless, Project 46 is this artist that I really like. Vice Tone took a lot of influence from when I first started producing, and they were the ones that got me into progressive house and wanted me to create progressive house. Like, before listening to Project 46, I thought like, oh, I guess I'm going to be making electro complextro. I guess I don't know how to do sound design and stuff. And then I started listening to Project 46. I'm like, oh, there isn't any really crazy sound design in this. So this might be something I'm able to make. And that's what kind of kickstarted my whole producing kind of career in a sense. So I owe it to the electro and complextro guys, kind of like Stephen Walking and them too, but I also owe a lot to like Project 46 and Vice Tone for kind of kicking off my producing career, I guess you'd say, and the project of Yflex, and possibly A Producer's Approach too, but mostly the Yflex project started from me listening to a lot of Project 46 way back in the day. So Motionless is I think the best, how do you say it, like the best capturing or the best kind of encapsulation of their style in this time period, which kind of fully showed their mixing abilities, because some of their mixes in the past weren't as good and they're a little dated today unless you like that style of music. But this song, like if you listen to it now, like the mixing and the quality and the emotions of the song like really is a little bit more timeless than some of their other songs. So this version of the song in this video is actually not the full version of the song. They kind of cut out the intro and left the outro for this video. I don't really know why, because for Heartbeat they had the full 6-minute version, but for this song they wanted to cut it down, but it's not going on a radio, so I don't exactly know why. But I have the actual song on my phone, so I know that the full song is about like 6 minutes including the intro. So not sure why they cut out the intro, but it just kind of starts off straight away in the break section. So anyways, this is Project 46's song Motionless featuring Seri, and let's get into it.
I feel your touch from across the room. I taste your energy. I see a light that I never knew. You are overtaking me. Mesmerized, paralyzed. When your eyes find mine, that's when you leave me.
All right, so just right off the bat, you hear the VFX kind of come in. There was no kick introduction, so kind of strange there. But you hear the vocals come in from Seri. Much like Heartbeat, this song really focuses on the vocals. Like you hear the reverb. There's no piano in the chord progression, but you hear like a pluck in the background. And there might be a pad playing along, but I know the main focus is really on the vocals. I think there's a pad maybe playing the chord progression, which the vocals are following, but you mostly hear the pluck and the vocals, and you hear the effects of the vocals, how big they are, kind of the emotion that Seri put into these vocals, which is really crazy because you just hear it right off the bat. And that's kind of what I like about Heartbeat and Motionless, is that they kind of emphasize the vocals quite a bit in both these songs, and they structure in such a way where the vocals aren't taken away by the mix. Like they just kind of emphasize the vocals. And usually when you make a song with vocals in it, you want to emphasize the vocals as much as possible. Like the sounds that you add in, like the synths and the percussion, that's all kind of secondary to what the main focus should be normally, is the vocals, because that's what most people want to hear, is the vocals. So anyways, I like how they structured it and they gave a lot more emphasis and focus on the vocals in these sections, at least in this break section to start off the song. So let's continue. All right, so this section is really cool. Transitions right from the vocals into the kind of break and build up section. So you hear the bass line come in, and you hear the main kind of hook of why the song is called Motionless. You hear the vocalist say motionless, and dun, 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 dun. So like the melody kind of starts playing as well. You hear the bass line as well, but you hear the melody kind of come in, which is going to be the main melody for the drop section. But they introduce it, but I like how they introduce it, kind of having a call and response between the vocal of Motionless and the lead main melody. So it's really cool how they pair that together along with the bass line. So there's like a lot more going on, but the percussion's not really there, which is really nice. And then slowly a snare buildup comes in, but the snare is not really in the forefront. It's kind of more in the foreground, or in the background, I guess you'd say. So it's not really super noticeable, but you do hear a snare and then like a snare build up, and then there's a little bit of a VFX. But I like how like in Heartbeat, this song, there's like an actual vocal phrase or a vocal hook that introduces right into the drop, where it's not just like a breath of air or like a sound effect. It's actually the vocal, where the vocalist Seri here says I feel, and then like motionless, and then it goes into the drop, which is really cool. So so far it's really good, and you kind of capture that emotion in this portion of the song, and you kind of are seeing Project 46's, skills develop in this way over the years into what it is right now. So anyways, let's keep going and let's listen to this drop. All right, that was the first drop, which was really cool. So yeah, Motionless is said to go into the drop. Percussion hits, so you hear the kick playing on a 4/4 rhythm. You hear like a open hi-hat playing every kind of kick rhythm. So it's not there's not so much variation in the hi-hat itself. It's just playing every kick rhythm, so almost like that whole kind of duration the kick hits. Which is cool. You hear the lead sound, which is cool, and then you hear that alternate piano melody, which I actually really like in the song. That they had the alternate piano melody, which is cool. Then the bass line plays. The main lead melody plays, which is like a saw wave. So is the kind of bass sound playing along with the sub bass is also like a saw wave as well. That plays out. Then the second part of this first drop comes in, and then the percussion changes where they add the snare. So then you hear the kick and the snare. So kick on 1 and then the kick snare on 2. So every 2 and 4, there's a snare that comes in, which is really cool. Add some variation there. Same melody, same chord progression plays. And then there's transition. And then the last part of this first drop is when there's more of a varied kind of hi-hat that comes in that has a little more activity, I guess you'd say. Like it's a little more frequent playing, so you kind of hear the hi-hats a little bit more than just on every kick beat. So then I kind of add some variation to the percussion, and then that drop plays out, and then the percussion stops kind of like at the end of Heartbeat, and then you kind of hear the percussion play out and those sounds play out to transition into the break section. So that is a common technique, as I said, for a lot of progressive house music. And it's a technique I think that works really well, just kind of transitioning out of a drop into like either a break section or an outro. That's usually like a nice kind of way to outro and kind of give some variation between the percussion in the drop and then switching out to not really using a percussion in the break section. So really nice structure there, really catchy lead. I love that alternative kind of piano melody in the background. It's really nice and it plays the whole time, so I like that as well. So let's get into the second break section. Alright, so in that last section, I just wanted to break it down. So to kind of end from that first drop, the saw wave sound kind of almost flutters down, almost like a white noise sound that's like pulses down like then you hear that dun, 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 that kind of melody come back, play along with the pad, and then the vocals come in. But what's really cool is that there's like a reverse cymbal that kind of is used as a VFX, which is really cool. That's basically you take a cymbal sound, and at least on Ableton you can press the reverse button and that sound reverses, so then you kind of hear the cymbal sound coming in backwards. So the kind of the reverb tail of it or the tail end of it kind of flips to the front, and then you hear that, so it kind of reverse kind of crashes, which is really cool. That's an effect I use quite a bit, especially when I was first producing back in the day. And my buddy actually Paper Wolf showed me that technique, and we used that technique a lot when we kind of were starting our journey, helping each other produce music right at the beginning of my journey when I started producing music. So that's a technique that kind of reminds me of when we started producing music way back in the day, or when I did as well. So that's a really cool technique, and I like how the vocals played out in this section. It's the same kind of vocal section that you hear partially towards the second half of the first break. So it's not a totally new vocal, but it does work for this section, and it goes kind of back in to this kind of build-up-ish section with the bass sound coming back in and the lead sound coming back in, but the alternate lead is kind of playing in the background, or the alternate melody. So that's really cool. So anyways, let's keep going.
The world drifts around me, motionless. I feel you inside me,
All right, so what I wanted to mention in this section is like you do hear this sound that goes oh, like that's actually a sound you hear in the intro section, but they kind of cut out the intro section, like the intro kind of kick section, so you wouldn't really know that listening to this video or watching this video, but that sound is reintroduced again in this section along with the pluck on the kind of bass line. But that kind of hoo-wah sound that you hear in the background, that's kind of the main sound that you hear in the intro of the song, which is kind of when I know this song is Motionless if I were to ever hear it, is that kind of sound. I'm not even sure what it is, if it's like a chopped up vocal or sound design sound from Project 46, but this section is really good. Gives a lot of emphasis with the bass line coming in and the vocals, and a little bit of the hi-hat, I think. Could be wrong, but I know at least the bass line, the vocals are really good, and then there's like a nice pairing with the plucks and that kind of ooh sound kind of in the background, that kind of sound effect. So it's really cool in this section. I really like when they do this, and let's keep it going and we'll break down this next section. All right, so this is the build-up section, but what I like about these two sections is that it gives a lot of emphasis on the vocals paired with the bass section, and then it transitions into kind of a section where the vocals kind of fade out, and you kind of hear the lead play along with the bass chords and bass progression, which is really nice. So it like gives a lot of emphasis on these two sections. Like it doesn't just build up straight away. There's like kind of breakdowns within a breakdown, I guess you'd say. Like it's really cool how they do that in this song, which is why I think I like this song, because the way it's structured with the two kind of euphoric big kind of dreamy build up break sections here is just like really cool, because they emphasize the vocals in one section with the bass line, and then after that they kind of emphasize like the lead and the kind of bass line that you're going to hear in the drop. And with this build-up, it's a little bit different too. It's a little more exaggerated, again, than the first drop, but I like the kind of snare stops as it starts building up. Like, the snare builds up, and then there's another bigger snare that goes psh, and then it builds up again and goes psh. So it's kind of cool how they're like kind of, I almost like to call them like snare stops. Like, it's like building up, stop, building up, stop, building up, stop, like just to emphasize like, okay, we're building it up, building it up, building it up, building the tension, and then eventually it's going to drop. But I just like the variation in the section and just kind of the exaggeration of those two parts. Like it kind of gives more emphasis on those two separate parts not combined, like separately, which is really nice because then you hear kind of those two separately, and then when they're combined, they just kind of sound really good in the drop. So anyways, let's keep this song going, and we'll see if I talk to you guys at the end of the outro. If I do, let you guys enjoy the rest of the song. So let's keep it going. Alright, so that is Project 46's song Motionless featuring Seri. So we'll back up into the second drop. So the second drop is pretty similar in the way it's structured. The way it dropped was not as smooth, I guess, as the first drop where they had the vocals say Motionless. It kind of just went into the drop, which was a little interesting. But that kind of main ooh-ah sound, you kind of hear it in the background in the second drop as well, and I might have missed it in the first drop, but I hear it a little bit more in the second drop as kind of a background sound, and that's really cool. It pairs really well, gives some extra variation, with the percussion and so much going on. Like a little extra sound effect in the higher end timbre range is kind of nice to kind of keep the flow going for the song, which is pretty nice. And the drop is a little bit shorter, I think, in this second drop than it was in the first drop. So the first drop actually was a little bit longer than the second drop, which is a little bit interesting of a structural choice. But there was no kind of end of the percussion to emphasize the outro in the second drop, so it kind of just goes into the outro kind of right off the bat. It doesn't transition as smoothly as it did in the first drop, which is a little interesting too, but the outro is really good. Is a more traditional kind of kick outro, kick snare outro, and then there is a couple sound effects in the background. It's like doo 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 that you kind of hear in the background, which I thought was really cool in that outro. It's like a lower timbre, but it's really cool. And you kind of hear that ooh sound like for the first time in the song, because that's actually a sound you hear throughout most of the song. But because they cut out the intro section of the song on this video, you don't really pay attention to that sound so much until you hear it at the end. I'm not exactly sure why they cut out the intro to the song, but I don't know. That's just how Monstercat did it. But overall, this song is really good. I really like Motionless. The structure is a little unique, I will say, but I do like how it's structured. I mean, if they uploaded the whole song, I kind of wish like it would be a little bit easier to tie some of the things together if they uploaded like the full intro, including this version of the song. But the vocals from Seri are like chillingly good. Like they're so emotional. They pack that punch. Like Vice Tone, Project 46, like they mastered like emphasizing the vocal in the song, in the break sections, to like really just kind of emphasize it and give that vocal all the attention in the forefront. And all the sounds paired with it are really good. The lead is really catchy in the drop sections. The first drop's really good actually, in terms of how they utilize the vocals, building up into that drop, and then there's that gap saying Motionless, and then the drop just hits. I like how the first drop is longer. It's a little bit different structurally, but I like how it's longer, and then there's variation in the percussion, and then how it kind of fades out. The second break section is really good. I really like the emphasis on that vocal part and that synth part right when it builds up. I like the emphasis on both parts. There's not really any percussion. You just kind of hear the vocals play, and then you kind of just hear the lead section play with the bass lines in both sections, which is really cool. Really like that a lot. I also like that weird sound that they kind of outro with, like hoo-ah, hoo-ah, that kind of sound. I like that sound throughout the song as well because it's a really kind of notable sound for me. Like once I hear that little sound effect, like I'll know it's Motionless right off the bat because no other song I know has that kind of weird sound designish type sound. I don't know if it's a vocal chop or a sound design sound, but Project 46 made on their own. So anyways, this song is really good. Really packs the emotional punch. And that bass line is not as hard as some of the older Project 46 songs, but it is still hard enough to where like I like it a little crunchier for progressive house music. And that's something I forgot to mention in the Vice Tone video, is a lot of progressive house in this time period used a lot of harder basses, like in 2012, 2013, going into like 2014. They used a lot of like harder basses paired with like really kind of nice, smooth, organic sounding, happier sounding lead sounds, but with like a really kind of aggressive bass, which is what I like, the kind of separation between like the aggressive bass and the kind of happier sounding lead sounds. So this song's really good. I can't recommend it enough, and I'm so glad that I'm able to do an APA video for this song and Heartbeat, because these are two songs I go back to quite often, especially when I want that like emotional feel in a song. And Seri, just her vocals capture that so well. Like just the way her vocals are just like dreamy, euphoric, almost like. Her vocals really remind me of a trance song, and some of the structure of this song actually reminds me a lot of like an Armin van Buuren trance song. So it's pretty interesting. Overall, I hope you guys like this video. Definitely check out Project 46, whether it be their Monstercat music or not. Some of the more notable non-Monstercat songs I like are Feel the Fire, Iceberg. Iceberg's probably my favorite. No one's a Monstercat release. You and I is really good. Crime is really good. And then their Monstercat releases, you know, Reasons, Slide, Dreaming, Moab, Limitless. Their remix for Build the City, Catalyst, that whole EP that Catalyst is on is really good. And, you know, there might be others I'm missing, but anyways, Project 46, they're legends, at least to me. And I hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you guys like these last at least two videos, because these are the two songs that at least mean quite a bit to me, and I listen to them quite a bit. So I hope you guys like the video too. So anyways, I hope you guys like these videos, and I'll see you in the next A Producer's Approach video. All right, have a good one, everyone. Peace.